Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to be doing part 4 to the crazy story that I covered earlier this week, all 1, 2, and 3 in the same day, which was titled, Man Leaves Cheating Wife in Hotel with Nothing But Her Bra, but the discovery was only the beginning. And if you guys all recall, that's about the guy married for a number of years, thought everything was cool, went to surprise his wife on a business trip, except he was the one that had the surprise, found it with another dude. Left her there with nothing but her bra, literally, took everything out of there when she was in the shower, came back home, she found her way back, and long story short, after a whole lot of drama and turmoil and her saying everything from the Hobag handbook, how sorry she is, and blah, 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 he's done with her. But also, as you recall, she's a twin. And it gets out that not only was she back in high school and college, she and her twin would switch boyfriends on purpose to measure them up and all that. But guess what? She did the same thing to him. So for a while, he was hooking up with her twin sister. I mean, it's freaking crazy. They don't have any kids, but the twin sister has children, which made me question if those kids were his. And so we're continuing on with part 4. Anything else you want to know, you can watch the other 3 episodes here. Now, as you can see, this is quite long, so I'm going to get right to the point. It says, Dear SSM, I want to thank SSM for reading my past post and commenting on it. You and your viewers were extremely helpful in their comments. It's been a difficult 3 weeks, and your support and advice has been invaluable. Thank you. He had written this to me weeks ago before I actually covered the thing, which shows you guys, you write into me, give me some time, because I get so many emails, it takes me a while to get to them often. People ask for an update to my situation with my cheating wife Ellie and her cheating twin sister Karen. The situation has gotten worse and worse. Worse, well, I know what happens, and yes, it does get worse. Not just for me, but for Karen's husband and her children. I didn't mention that Karen's husband's name in the last post. His name is Ken, and he is 36 years old. Both my wife Ellie and her twin sister Karen have been unfaithful the whole time I've known them. They actually switched husbands for an occasional night of sex for years without my or Ken's knowledge or permission. Truth is stranger than fiction. I made a lot of mistakes, and that you, SSM, and others have discussed them. I made even more mistakes. Please point the ones out that I missed. First, to those of you who are doubtful my story is real, I wish it was not. I wish it was fiction. This has been devastating for me and Ken and his family, but believe what you want. Well, bro, as you must understand, the story was so well written that one can honestly think, why, well, is that true? Is there exaggerations here? Is it fan fiction? And I meant no disrespect, and I'm sure the guys in the community don't, but it was so well written, one could think it was actually a screenplay for a crazy-ass movie. But anyhow, okay, again, benefit of the doubt, and no problem there. I know you're writing in to share your story and get advice and all that. Fair enough. But sometimes things are so crazy, one has to question if they're accurate. Much of the criticism that I received in the comments was about what I did and didn't do at Santa Fe and in the hotel that I drove to that night. Some said I should have thrown Ellie out of my rental car at the resort. How? Was I supposed to drag her out by her hair, knock her unconscious? There were people around. They would have been intervened. Maybe someone would have called the cops. If I was arrested, that would have solved the problem getting away from Ellie. Not so good for me, though. Once she was in the car, how exactly was I supposed to get her out if she refused to get out? Well, I guess you could have gotten in the driver's side and quick locked the door, but it is what it is. Another criticism was that I shouldn't have let Ellie in my room or had dinner with her at the hotel that I drove to that night. How? Tell the receptionist she was stalking me. What was the receptionist going to do? Call the manager. What was the manager going to do? Well, I simply just said, no, I'm table for one, please, but okay. I wasn't going to start a big fight with her in the lobby of the restaurant. The hotel people wouldn't do anything unless we created disturbance or it got physical. Then they would call the police. I got criticism because I didn't ditch Ellie. I let her in my room and let her sit at the table in the restaurant. Did I want Ellie anywhere near me? Absolutely not. But no one who criticized me explained how I was supposed to get rid of her. Well, we could have different ideas there. Now, yes, you would have gotten into a fight in the lobby of the restaurant, and she knew that would have started a big scene. The cops would come, and guess who they'd blame? This guy. But still, people can say what they would do in a situation, but then when a situation comes, not always the case. But people have reason to question a few things. It says, Ellie is an attorney. If anyone told her she couldn't do this or had to do that, she'd give them a chapter and a verse about how they were violating her civil rights or her property rights or any other effed up thing she could think of. She'd tell them she's going to sue you, him, and everyone else. That I can believe, and that the audience would believe. Ellie pulled this crap once in a restaurant. We were still waiting for our table 15 minutes after the time we made the reservation for her. Ellie went up to the maitre d' to complain. She told them that she was an attorney and was going to sue everyone. She's really that asshole. At the restaurant, things are going a little slower. People aren't getting up from the tables as quickly. And because she had to wait 15 extra minutes to get seated at her table, she's going to sue the restaurant there. Okay. That says a lot about her personality. You can always tell about somebody's personality, how they are with people in the service business. Right down in there. When the guy left us to check our table, Ellie looked at her watch. I told her to stop it. She was embarrassing herself and me. The maitre d' came back and led us to our table. Ellie glanced at her watch again, smiled at me, and said, "Less than a minute." So in other words, she is a giant CUNT. If she did this in a restaurant because she was tired of waiting for the table, she would do it to me, to do the same or more in a hotel lobby, or with the police if they showed up, and for some unimaginable reason, told her she had to leave me alone. After 2 minutes listening to her, they probably would have told me that they were going to arrest me if I kept unsettling this wonderful woman. Well, I agree with that. She would have started a big scene, would have said exactly what the cops needed to hear, probably would have cried, made up some bullshit. We can see there. The only way to get rid of her, other than the way I did the next morning, was to get into a fight with her. That would have ended far worse for me than her. She was not going to leave me alone just because someone told her to. Anyway, there weren't many criticisms of how I solved the problem the next morning. I trapped her in the hotel room. I took all her stuff. It worked. I missed the first flight out of Santa Fe at 6:30 a.m. the next morning, so I sat at the airport for over 2 hours waiting for the 10 a.m. flight. If I hadn't taken everything from Ellie except her bra, she would have caught up with me at the airport and waited to get on that plane with me. More than 6 hours of traveling with her, not something I could take. And not something I could do anything about if she had turned up at the airport. It is now about 3 weeks since I left Ellie in the hotel room in Santa Fe. Let me bring you up to date. Both of the FUCK twins, Ellie and Karen, still live with me. How all your hair has been pulled out of your head, I don't know. I can't legally remove them. I decided to take a more active approach of getting rid of them. I thought about how to make things as difficult as I can for them to remain in my townhouse. Well, just eat a lot of Indian food and beans and Mexican food and just go around passing gas. I'm sure that will make things as uncomfortable as possible. Stink them out. I changed the access password for our home router. No more internet for these two lovelies. No more TV. I watch stuff on my laptop. It's the middle of summer and very hot there. In the morning before leaving for work, I open the fuse box and switch off the fuses for the air conditioner and hot water heater. She may be able to get her way into a restaurant, but good luck with her trying to figure out how to turn that on. I turn the AC and hot water back on when I get home. I put a padlock in the closet that houses the fuse box so no one has access but me. During the week, Karen is the only one home. Maybe the heat and no hot water will encourage her to move out. Well, I'm not sure where you live. I think you said you're on the East Coast, but it's been hot and humid here. But since she's a co-owner of the house, I'm sure she could dig up some bullshit and get you to switch that back on. When they ask why I have internet, and they don't, and why the AC and hot water isn't working, I shrug and tell them they should not subject themselves to these horrible conditions. They should find a better place to live. They can't do anything about what I've done but complain, or they can just move out. I wish there was a bug spray type of thing to get rid of cheating wise. I'd use that too to get rid of these pests. Well, whoever can invent a bug spray to deal with cheating wise will be the richest guy in the world. He'll be richer than Elon Musk. One of the services we offer at our computer company is installing cameras. Customers buy these to protect their server rooms from disgruntled employees or intruders. But they want the cameras to be out in the open so it's obvious to anyone who wants to do damage they have eyes on them. The cameras need to be very visible as a detriment. I wanted cameras in my house. I wanted to see the exchanges between Ellie and Karen. But more important, I need a record of their interactions with me. If things get ugly, Ellie has a witness to say, I did this or I did that bad thing. Her witness is Karen. Her twin sister, Karen will say anything her sister wants her to say. Yeah, anybody with a brain would figure that out. Unfortunately, they would still buy her bullshit. I need a witness too. Camera footage, but a witness needs to be invisible. Okay, then do it. I told the tech who does the camera stuff for our customers that I wanted what I wanted. He said give him a day and he'd come up with a plan. He asked me where I wanted the cameras and I told him. He asked me to describe what was in those locations. We spent some time going over where and how to hide the cameras. He put in cameras 2 days later when Ellie was at work and Karen was visiting with her kids. Oh, on top of them living there, now you got the screaming kids at the house. I know where they are and I have trouble seeing them. The feed goes to my office computer at work and the cloud. I can access the video from home. The cameras are always recording. The tech is getting a raise. Yeah. I've been watching the cameras record a couple of things of interest. Right after the guys installed the camera, Karen asked Ellie if she'd heard from the guy I discovered Ellie with at the resort in New Mexico. Ellie said she blocked him, but he called at her work a few days later after Ellie talked to his wife. Ellie said he was furious. He said he and Ellie had a pact that if one of the spouses found out about the cheating, they would not inform the other spouse under any circumstances. He hung around in the lobby of the resort trying to talk to Ellie and then called her to remind Ellie of the pact to make sure his adultery didn't get back to his wife. You all recall in the previous story where he made her call, and rat this guy out and made her call her sister's husband to rat her out. Ellie broke their agreement and told his wife. His wife threw him out. Aw, poor guy. He's in an at-fault divorce state and his wife will take him to the cleaners. Alimony, child support, she's going to get the house. He'll be able to see his kids, but only through a binocular. He rented a dinky one-bedroom apartment, probably all he'll ever be able to afford. He's living in a motel until furniture arrives. He asked how Ellie could do that to him. How could Ellie tell his wife? Aw, poor guy. Hey. This guy was knowingly banging this dude's wife, so he got what was coming to him. Karen asked Ellie what she told him. Ellie says she told him the same thing she told him in Santa Fe, fuck off, and she hung up on him. The other interesting conversation between Ellie and Karen has happened 3 times since the cameras went in. The same conversation 3 times on different days. It started with one of them regretting how stupid they were to cheat on their husbands. The other one saying both their lives were a wreck. They themselves created this mess. Nobody else. They've been playing games since they were kids on people. This is who they are. They're scum. Their husbands despise them. How could they have been so stupid or so foolish? They both loved their husbands and what they did was horrible. They learned their lesson and would always be faithful. If only their husbands would forgive them, blah, blah, blah. Both of them trying to outdo the other and how horrible their behavior was, how miserable they were, how sorry they were. Bullshit. If you suddenly took your wife back and forgave her as well as your brother-in-law, I guarantee they'd be back to their old tricks like that. Just like that. Then the blame started. One would say that she did it only because the other was doing it. Women and accountability. The other one said that her twin egged her on. If not for her sister, she never would have cheated. Then it didn't take much egging on. You did it with a boyfriend, lover, or whoever, fill in the blank, so the other one did it with hers. It was the other one's fault that her life was a mess. No, it was that one's fault. This got pretty heated, blaming each other for getting the other one into hot water they're in. The blame shifting went on for a while. For about a year, I worked with 2 twins as a personal trainer. I worked with a very wealthy family, a lot of dough. And they hired me. I was working with many of the family members and the twin sisters that were in their early 20s. And they were still, I would say, looks-wise, 7s. But in the household, which was like a fucking mansion, I saw pictures. They looked like in their prime at 18, 19 years old. They were 9s. Very good looking. But they still think they're 9s. And they liked me. We got along. But you could just tell they had that high and mighty thing about them, and you can tell they liked to see what they could get away with me and all that. I knew their fucking tricks. But anyhow, the twin thing is very interesting, especially twin girls. And these two just, there are other kids in the family, but those two were their own thing because they were the twins and they were good looking and special and all that. So I can imagine those two fighting over something like this. Anyway, blame shifting, blah, blah, blah. When blaming each other became too heated or they had nothing more to say, they'd stop talking. Then one would say something like, "It sure was fun though," And the other would say, it sure was, and they laugh and laugh. Again, this discussion was repeated 3 times on different days. Someone please explain why they would have the same conversation 3 times. Because women can't shut the fuck up. I'm surprised they weren't having other conversations at the same time with that. You ever get a bunch of girls together and see what they like when they talk? They could have multiple conversations all going at the same time, and yet they can somehow manage to remember every single thing that every single one said in the greatest of details. It's amazing to me. It's a phenomenon. Again, this discussion was repeated 3 times in different days. Someone please explain to me, blah, blah, blah. I understand that they don't regret cheating, only regret getting caught. But what was the point of having this conversation over and over again? Lord knows. Ken and I have been talking regularly, keeping up with each other on plans and providing what support we can for each other. Our experience with our wives is the same, so we understand what the other is going through. I am getting divorced. I'm not even considering reconciling with Ellie. I want her out of my life. Bro, then you gotta hold it together. Do what you gotta do. Listen to your lawyer, as I said. Ken and Karen have 2 small children, a 3-year-old girl and a 1-year-old boy. It is not easy for him. There are logistical issues for him dealing with the kids. He needs to work, but the children need to be cared for while he's at work. They need feeding and watering. Watering? He's been relying on his parents, but things are hard for him. Listening to his life now, I have a new appreciation for all single parents. He's allowed Karen to take up more of the slack. Karen was a full-time housewife and only a part-time SLUT. She's thrilled to step in. Better than sitting at home, my house all day waiting for her husband to call and yell at her. Yeah, and sitting in the house with no cable, no internet, and no air conditioning in this very hot and humid summer that we're having here on the East Coast. I guess she sees this as a way to try and save the marriage. Good luck. I hope not, but she may be right. I think Ken is so exhausted he might give in and take her back. Smack! No. Send that to Ken. No, Ken. You cannot take her back. I said in the last post, my STD test came back negative. Ken's test showed that he also is free of STDs. A minor miracle. Ken also got a DNA test for his 2 children. He wanted to see if he was their father. A good question given his wife's sexcapades. That's what I was wondering, given the fact that you hooked up with your wife's sister multiple times, if those kids are indeed Ken's or yours. It's a fair question. Ken called me at work and asked if he could come by my house to talk to his wife. He wanted to talk in person and didn't want to be alone with her. He wanted me to be a witness. He'd leave the kids with his parents and be there by 7 p.m. He sounded very upset on the phone. I, of course, agreed. Now what? Did he find out Karen was working in a brothel? The 4 of us sat in my living room. I told Ellie she didn't need to be here. She said she was Karen's attorney and was there to represent her. Anytime she can turn on the lawyer card and make herself feel strong and powerful, she will. Ken opened some paperwork he brought. Gentlemen, can you see where this is going here? He looked at his wife and announced that their daughter wasn't his. He wasn't her father. The paper had the DNA results, and there wasn't any chance he fathered the daughter. Karen became pale, fell back in the seat, and fainted. Oh, for goodness sake, goddamn drama queen. Literally fainted. Ellie went to attend her. You're her lawyer, Ellie, not her doctor. Ken and I sat there. I had never seen anyone as distraught as Ken, that poor guy. Yeah, that poor guy. Finds out his wife's been doing all these years, and then to find out that his child, one of them, is not his. It's terrible. Karen revived, remembered what happened, and just started sobbing. Ellie demanded to see the tests. He handed them to her. She said at least the younger boy was Ken's. I thought, congratulations, Ken. One of your kids is actually yours. Should we give Karen a medal for one out of 2? When Karen looked like she was able to talk, Ken asked who the father of their daughter was. Karen shook her head and said it wasn't possible. Ken was the father. We got the results right here. I don't care how many times you say it and try to convince yourself. She always used protection. Well, clearly not. She looked at Ellie for confirmation. Ellie said they both always used condoms with the other guys. Ellie looked at Karen and asked if she ever got so carried away that she didn't use protection. Karen said she never got that carried away. She was too afraid of STDs. She couldn't explain an STD to her husband. Yeah, because these two have been so honest up until this point. You really believe they never, ever, ever, not even once, didn't wear protection or have protection. Says the only person she didn't use condoms with was me. Karen knew that Ellie and I never used condoms. Ellie has a IUD. When Ellie and Karen switched husbands for a night, we couldn't pull out a condom. I would say, what the hell, and their game would be up. Karen said that I couldn't be the father. The last time she spent the night with me, she was already pregnant with her daughter. The time before that was before Ken and Karen were even trying to get pregnant. She was still on the pill. Well, we'll see. Karen said she knew it. It was the last time they'd been able to switch husbands, and she waited until she knew she was pregnant before sleeping with me. Oh, well, how nice of her. Karen was off birth control, so she would never have taken the chance to get pregnant by someone other than Ken. Since she was already pregnant, there was no risk of impregnating her. She wanted at least one last adventure with me before her life changed forever to be a pregnant wife and future mother. Before her life changed, huh? She and Ellie switched the day after she found out that she was pregnant. She repeated that the DNA test had to be wrong. Yeah, how many times have we heard that line? I couldn't believe I was hearing this. She was discussing cheating on her husband and deceiving me like she was talking about going to lunch with a friend. Because that's what it's like to them. It's all a big game. They have no morals, no moral compass. They don't give a shit. It's a big fucking game and how they get their kicks. Again, they're twins. And I've dealt with twins, like I said. And it's just, they're a whole different breed. And because they're good looking, that takes it to a whole new level. Ken asked how she knew she was pregnant. She said a drugstore pregnancy test. They're never wrong. Well, same thing with DNA tests. Ken asked me if I had my laptop. He wanted to see if they were never wrong. He Googled the question about false positives on pregnancy tests. It turns out that they give a false positive about 1% of the time. Maybe higher depending on the time of day it was taken. Ken asked why she didn't have her doctor confirm the pregnancy. Karen said when she found out she was pregnant, she called the doctor and made an appointment. But she had to wait 10 days. Her doctor confirmed that she was pregnant. Ellie and I were sitting stone-faced during all of this. The last thing I wanted was to be a father. Ellie knew that this wasn't anything good. I was trying to figure out how I could disappear into thin air. As if these guys' lives weren't bad enough because of all this bullshit going on. Now, the one dude finds out that his child is not his, and now our guy here is finding out it is extremely likely that he actually is a father. And then the poor kids, if the kids ever find out about this, which obviously they will one day. And people hate me for what I do on YouTube and my opinions and sharing these stories. These stories help guys all over the world understand reality. Ken said it's easy to find out if I was the father. I would just take a DNA test. How soon could I do that? I replied that trying to figure out the father was like trying to find a needle in a haystack, as I probably effed half the guys in our city. Between the two of them, his wife and mine, probably all the guys in our city. Condoms break, it could be anyone. Ken said if I take the test, that could at least rule me out. It sounded like I was the father. Ken wanted to know, will I take the test? I told Ken I needed to think about it. I didn't tell them that I really wanted to talk to my attorney about this before I agreed to anything. Ken asked me why, and I just can't take it. Instead of answering him, I asked him what difference did it make. He knew he wasn't the father. What if it had turned out that I was the father of his daughter? Was he going to bring her here and dump her off with me? Was he going to disown her and have me raise her? She's his daughter regardless of who the biological father is. Well, a lot of people would disagree with that. But if he's loved her and thought she was his own, then I see it differently. But you have some stories come up where guys find out their kid isn't theirs and they walk away, and it's horrible for the kids because the kids think that's their dad. It's not the kid's fault their mother is who she is, but also for the guy, it's a tough situation. Ken looked at me and said that he'd never give up on his daughter. If the biological father or anyone, he looked at Karen, tried to take her away from him, he'd fight tooth and nail for her. He just wanted to know if I was the father, would I take the DNA test? That's all I need to think about, though, and I let him know. Yeah, think about it. Talk to your lawyer. Find out any repercussions or problems you may have if it turns out. Because next thing you know, child support and stuff like that. It's fair enough. He left the house. I guess he still believes I knew about the husband swapping and went along with it for years. Ellie asked what I planned to do. I told her to get the F away from me and keep her piece of shit sister away from me too. They went to their rooms. Bitches, go to your rooms. When they were gone, I called my attorney and left a message to call me first thing in the morning. It was an emergency. When he called the next morning, I told him that we had to meet as soon as we can. We set a meeting for 3:30 that afternoon. I had some things I had to do in the office, but called my father and told him that I needed to talk. He said to come to lunch. When I got to his place, he asked me what's up. I told him there's a good chance he's a grandfather and explained the situation. He shook his head in disbelief and said, "You're not considering taking Ellie back, are you?" I told him not in a million years. He said, "Good." He didn't raise a fool. He told me to call my lawyer and see what my liability is if I'm the father. I told him I had an appointment that afternoon. He said if I decided to take the test and it turned out I was the father, I should think about what kind of relationship I wanted with a daughter and go from there. Yes, listen to your old man. I met with my attorney and we went over 3 things. So here we go. We're going to break down this whole thing here. It says here, number 1. I've told him I wanted to give him a hypothetical situation. What if a twin sister was trapped in a hotel room without her ID and used her twin's driver's license to get on a plane? He asked if I was talking about my wife and her sister. I said it was all hypothetical. Not anyone I knew. Would he use it to move along a divorce and get more favorable terms? He said his advice would be to save that information and use it if only it was needed later. It will make things ugly real quick. Number 2. I told him that I couldn't get Ellie out of the house or to agree to divorce. I couldn't get her sister to leave, and it looks like that there's a little chance that her husband will take her back, especially now that he found out that he's not the daughter's father. My lawyer said that let's give it another month. If she doesn't move out, we'll file with the court to begin the divorce process. But I should understand that she'll protest and tell the court she wants to reconcile. Who knows what the judge will say, but generally they like the idea of reconciliation. Of course they do. And who does that always benefit? The wife. It puts off them having to make a decision about anything. He might order marriage counseling. Regardless, Ellie can delay the divorce. Not forever, but for a while. I told him I can't stand living with Ellie and her sister anymore. I think I should move. I should move out. He asked if I could take it for another month. If I can, let's decide about that then too. Keep trying to persuade them to leave. Number 3, the best for last. I explained the situation about the twin sluts trading husbands. There's a very good chance I'm the father of Karen's daughter. Do I have to take a DNA test? If I'm the father of the daughter, what's my liability? He said, okay, he wrote this wrong. Let him see if he has this right. My sister-in-law slept with me, pretending to be and encouraging me to believe she was my wife. I nodded. She got pregnant, also without my knowledge or consent, while deceiving me about who she really was. Is that right? And I nodded. He said she's liable criminally and civilly. So my wife, but pursuing charges isn't worth it. Sorry, guys, I'm stuttering here. There were some things poorly written in this sentence or two. It would be hard to prove if I didn't know. They could just say I did. As for the DNA test, there's nothing making you take the test. But he could drop something for Ken and me to sign. I would agree to a DNA test, but only if they sign an agreement stating the facts surrounding Karen and Ellie's bed hopping and Karen's pregnancy. We wanted all of that on record. They would also stipulate that I was free of any and all claims that I contribute monetarily or in any way to support the daughter. We could also put that the nature of the relationship between me and the daughter would be a mutual consent by all 3 parties. Ken, Karen, and me. Whatever sort of relationship I want with the girl, I have to negotiate that with my in-laws. I told them to drop the agreement. Okay, there you go. And there you go. Liable criminally and civilly for her actions. But again, those 2 gals could say, oh, he knew, or it was a big game, or make up some bullshit. I told Ken I'd take the test if he and Karen agreed to sign the agreement. My lawyer prepared. They agreed. When Ellie said she wanted to see the agreement before her sister signed, Ken told her to butt out. Karen told Ellie it was okay, anything her husband wanted. We signed in my lawyer's office. As soon as we signed, I told Karen that she just signed a document admitting to criminal acts. I asked my attorney to take it to the proper authorities for prosecution. I told them I'll also be suing for damages. Karen was instrumental in the destruction of my marriage and the resulting pain and suffering caused of her infidelity and deception. What a moron. Both Ken and Karen were stunned. You guessed it, Karen was crying. Of course. I told them I would hold off if Karen left my house immediately. Karen was gone from the house that afternoon. 1 down, 1 to go. Nice job, man. Good job. That's right. 1 down, 1 to go. Keep eating Mexican and Indian food and in that hot house that day and going around passing gas. I'm sure your wife Ellie will leave soon, real quick. When Ellie got home that evening, she told me she wanted to see the bullshit agreement Karen signed. I told her that Karen had admitted to criminal acts and implicated Ellie. I decided to report Ellie's criminal acts to the Bar Association, her boss, and have my attorney referred her for criminal prosecution. I told her I'll hold if she moved out. Ellie again asked to see what Karen signed. She read it over and smiled. She said it proved nothing. Karen had signed this to please her husband, and she'd admit to anything to placate her husband. If I pushed this, Karen would say exactly that. Karen said both Ellie and Karen will say I knew about the husband swapping from the beginning and went along with it. She and Karen didn't deceive me in any way. It would be my word against the two of theirs. She has a point. She's obviously not dumb. She's an asshole, and she's many things, but she's not that dumb. He says here, actually, Ken might be able to sue me. Ken never believed I didn't know about all this. Ellie handed the agreement back to me and finished by telling me she's not leaving. Ellie said I didn't have to worry about Karen coming back. My threat worked with them. Karen was back living with Ken, but just as a housekeeper and nanny. Ken said he was still divorcing her, but she could stay at her house in her room and take care of the kids. Karen was thrilled. She had a foot in the door. Yeah, let's see if she tries to manipulate and get back with his good graces. Probably not. He says, that's good news. At least I didn't have to turn on the air conditioner and hot water in the morning anymore. It was hot when I got home. Takes too long to cool the house. I just don't buy that they've been living there that long without the fucking air conditioning on in this hot-ass summer we're having here and no internet. It's just, that part is just, I can't believe they're going along with that. No offense, man, but it just seems too far-fetched. He says here, Ellie's right. Karen will say anything Ellie tells her to. I looked at the camera footage of my talk with Ellie. She never says that she or Karen are going to lie or that she knows what Karen admitted is true. But only that she and Karen will deny that it's true. She just told me what they'd say if I pushed it. She never admitted to any wrongdoing. Do not marry a lawyer. I took the DNA test. Congratulate me. I'm a dad. Yep. There you go. Ken and my relationship has cooled since my test came back. I haven't figured out what sort of relationship I want with the girl that I fathered. I have to think about that more. So I continue to live in this hell with my wife. If nothing happens in the next month, I'll move in with my father while I look for a permanent place of my own. There's nothing that's going to change my mind about divorcing Ellie. I have the plane ticket Ellie used with Karen's name on it. If I don't need to use it before my divorce is final, I'll get to the proper authorities once our divorce is final. Looking forward to that. And that, guys, is the end of part 4. Crazy. Our man here is now a dad. And nobody can be that surprised. I was surprised when I read this yesterday when I was going over this story during my lunch. But anyhow, bro, this is nuts. I'm glad you're listening to your lawyer. I'm glad you consulted your lawyer. That's great that he wrote that thing up and she signed that, but obviously your wife, Ellie, is not dumb. She's an attorney. She ain't out yet, but I'm sure one way or another you're going to find a way to get rid of her. Or, unfortunately, you move and, because you must be going insane with her in the house. But again, guys, truth is stranger than fiction. You can't make this shit up. Because, one can argue you can make this shit up. But the point is, there's been so many crazy stories I've done, which without a shadow of a doubt are real, that there you go. Anyhow, guys, I will keep an eye out for any more updates. I'm sure they'll be coming as time goes on, because as long as Ellie's living with this guy, there's going to be more turmoil and drama. And anyhow, bro, I would talk to your dad, do some soul searching. How are you going to handle things with this daughter of yours, As well as talk to your attorney and find out all legal issues there. And hopefully you're not going to be held accountable or them come after you or anything. And we'll see how this thing goes. So, all right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let us think about this. Let this guy know what you think in the comment section. If you have any questions for him, definitely comment away. He'll address them in future videos. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.